The one thing which even I found to my ability where Reich differentiates itself is in its values. The values of what Reich is looking for, I think, is something which should be a common denominator as well for every company if they have to be successful. Because what is that we are calling out as Reich values, right? One thing we say, move fast and move fast later, right? I mean, basically, what are we saying? Don't get lost in analysis paralysis. Get started, get something to market, learn from the market, learn from your customer, and move forward, right? That is not specific for Reich. I think it's a good culture anybody should carry. So the Reich culture, I become an advocate not from Reich cultural aspect, the commonality of what everybody can adapt. And then I think every other aspect that we say customer comes first, I think that is what every business should typically look at. Customer coming first, right? Because it is because of the customer we exist. The other bigger aspect of what we say deliver business outcomes, right? Is another thing we call out. And that's where that OKR principle played a very pivotal role in my understanding initially as well. Not getting lost with certain KPIs, which gives no outcome, means nothing, but coming up with an outcome first in terms of what we need to achieve, and then breaking that into what is the key criteria to achieve it, and thereby attaching a result to it. And when I realized that is how our engineering operates in terms of Scrum, gave me a lot more promise, saying that everything we are working is going to be used by a customer. What I realized here is if our culture is validated in every candidate whom we are interested in, just reinforces the fact that we are very serious about the culture because we see value in what we believe as our culture. Each of us as an individual in our career want to have a career growth, and as part of career growth we need to feel accomplished in whatever we do. I mean, it is not to do with our job. Even in life you want to feel accomplished, and to me accomplishment comes if there is learning in the job you do. And how do you learn? You either learn on your own or you are part of a bigger better team which has better capability than what you are to learn from and grow. You're going to be a part of a team which is far more enabled than you are, and that gives you an opportunity to learn and grow with them. Now, growth is not limited to only technology. Growth is also limited beyond technology in terms of business and domain, in terms of culture, and we are enabling every candidate who is going to be a Riker tomorrow to be part of that ecosystem. And that is what I play with. And it is not a sales story. If I don't believe in it, I can't convince others. The second aspect is naturally everybody who comes in has an aspiration of financial growth as well. And the financial growth we are not limited to. We are market competitive in terms of what we are doing for candidates. Is this an infinite market where we can compete with each other to death? The answer is no. Everybody works within the business constraint. So I still think we are very competitive in terms of what we can offer candidate in terms of financial growth. But the bigger value I see is complementing this financial growth is the career growth. Everybody who is joining Rike today is also enabled to go through our Rike Discovery, the Rike platform, to know what the platform is, what it is, what its capabilities and such. And usually, the way I position is nothing is stopping you to expand yourself beyond your IT skill set help desk. Get into something like a product, know everything about the product. Nobody is going to come in your way of your growth to become a customer support executive knowing the product inside out. If you know as much and you're technical enough and you're prepared to skill and grow, nothing is stopping you to become a professional services expert tomorrow. So the good news is a product of this caliber, which has technicality, support services, professional services, business technology services, there is enough room for people to learn and grow. So I think the key is making ourselves visible in terms of what the product platform capability is. And the second bigger aspect is to call out that fact, if you need to grow, you need to come out of a comfort zone. And that is true for everybody. It's including true for me, right? most of the good candidates, I believe, are lost in their current comfort of wherever they are in. And if they have to come out of the comfort, it's only when you come out of the comfort you're going to learn something new. When we start believing that our intelligence, I am the end of it, then we also end with it. So we need to believe there is some bigger intelligence outside which I can learn from. And if candidates are looking for that sort of an environment, I believe we have it in Rike. And we have it in Rike driven by the fact we have very competent engineers who have contributed to this platform growth, and they are still integral to this organization to help others. So I think one is definitely branding right, that the community is aware of a product of this caliber. Next, being aware of the product is this company is also having a center of excellence in India where they are growing and incubating. The other bigger aspect is it has a culture which enables, empowers you, and you are driven. I mean, that's another thing I tell the candidates here. Nobody here is going to come and monitor what you're doing or not. We want you to be so empowered, enabled, that we need you to drive yourself. And that is why, even in our filtering process, we are particular about certain softer aspects of what we look for in a candidate. Right? I think as much as technicality is important, aptitude, attitude is equally important. So we look for all that three mind maps for somebody to be part of a Riker. And I'm glad to say, yes, in even with that ask, we have been able to find good candidatures, and that is going to keep growing. When you're part of a new ecosystem, you being welcomed and being accepted, and how that happens itself drives the way forward. And for me, that was very welcoming. And that aspect and experience, what I went through, I call it out in my experience when I talk to candidates. The second part, the bigger reason I respect Rike is the ability to empower and enable leaders. And what I say for myself is true for what we will do to our candidates. We will empower, we will enable them, and from that point onwards, we are expecting them to drive themselves and be successful. And that sort of independence, a competent candidate will always respect it, because we are not a flocking culture anymore, right? Nobody needs to be monitored for being productive. Typically, in an IT services sort of organization, that is how I've seen the culture to be. And we are not that culture. Our culture is very different. You come in, you sign up, you are integral part of a global Scrum team. It is for you to subscribe to what has to be done depending on your skill set. And you need to drive yourself, you need to be direct, transparent, and you need to go and achieve it. And I think that sort of a culture, I don't believe many organizations do offer. And I strongly believe we are enabled and empowered to do that. And that is another very hard sell which I do when I talk to candidates, because not again I sell, because I believe in it, because I see it happening every day here. I believe in people and process, and I don't think without a process something would work. The process might not be written and articulated, but if the process is followed implicitly in the culture of doing things, it helps. Let me look at an engineer who works for Wrike India, right? He or she has aligned to me as a center head, an engineering head on the India side, but he or she also has a solid line with their lead and engineering managers. And most of them, I mean, at least the existing team I have seen, they have a regular connect with their leads and their managers. And in fact, I did hear from one of the other engineers yesterday, Subbu, I had the connect for this end of the month, and this is the feedback I got. And this has been the feedback, and such enables me from my level that yes, they are making progress. That is one part of it. From my perspective, I do it a bit differently, and that's why I expect the team to be in office. So far, for reasons of our scale, it is not formal, it's pretty informal. When they are in office, we have lunch together. I go across and I understand what is that they have contributed for the week, and how do they feel about this contribution. Is there something more we can enable them with? If there are any shortcomings and such, how is that we can help them with, so they feel enabled and empowered. So I do it from my end, from my perspective, so that if I understand it from them, I can get it communicated back to our leadership team so that it gets incorporated. That's one part of it. But so far, that has never been warranted for, because the way we are, the way the culture is, which is open and transparent and direct, it has happened point to point. So my job has been a lot simpler. As long as you connect with everybody in your team and you have a pulse in terms of where they are heading, and that as long as they believe they are contributing and that is showcased by the outcome, I think everybody will feel empowered and accomplished. And yes, we need to do a pulse check. Is there a formal pulse check? Yes, there are formal pulse check process in play. But many a times a formal nobody opens up from an India culture. When it is formal, they close. They don't openly talk about it. It's very easy to get this feedback in an informal sense. And having done it for long and having a people connect which is intrinsic to my characteristics, it's very easy for me to understand that, to see what course correction we need to make.